Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. This is an emergency podcast that I was supposed to do yesterday, but we're doing it tonight. And joining me right now is the host of the Heart Hits show, Derek Brandon Felix. How are you doing on this Thursday night?
I'm doing all right. How's it going, Madison?
It's going good. I was going to have you on last night because yesterday afternoon, the Rangers made a stunning decision by firing John Davidson and Jeff Gordon out of their president and general manager roles, respectively. You and I were in agreement on this, and I was surprised that you agreed with me on this in a lot of ways. I thought you were going to go the other way and say they shouldn't have done it. But there are reasons that people aren't focusing on enough why this was done. So give me your initial reaction to what went down yesterday at the Garden.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny. I was taking a nap at the time, right? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I'm woken up and I'm told that something happened. I'm like, you don't know? I'm like, no, what? Right? And then I find out that both JD and Gordon are gone, and so my initial reaction was shock. I was like, wait. Obviously I was shocked. And I just, obviously I started looking at my Twitter feed, and I'm looking at all the stuff that's being said from all the Ranger fans and all this other stuff, and I'm just thinking, wow, because everybody was talking about the game. Everybody's talking about the game, and what would be their response. But I started thinking about it, and I just felt like all these people, all they cared about was the statement, Madison.
Right.
And to be totally honest, I just felt like there was something missing with this team all season, and I've been pretty vocal about it. And you've seen me get into it with our friend Brian.
Yeah.
Where I just think they're too easy to play against. And you look at what they did against the Islanders. You look at those 3 games that they played, 6-1, they lost. Then they get shut out on Steven McDonald extra effort for Fortnite. What was that, 3-0 or 4-0?
That was
3-0. It was
3-0.
just those 3 games, I really felt like that had a lot to do with it. And so I see that Dolan gave this interview, this exclusive with Larry Brooks, who's been around since the Stone Ages, covered hockey for almost 50 years. And he specified that losing the way they did 6-1 and losing these games, he said that it was big. He said that he was thinking about it 20 or 25 games ago. I mean, because for a long time, Madison, they couldn't put together a long winning streak. And every time they put together one of these winning streaks, 4 or 5 games, it was, you had the Sabres in there, you had the Devils in there, or even the Flyers, who Savannah had his 2 6-point games against. So I guess I was like, you know what? They have to change their roster. I've been talking about it forever. Sounds like JD just was like, all right, if he goes, I go. And maybe he just saw a way to get out. And Chris Drury has been the guy that they've been grooming for this job. And I'm fine with it. I think that, yeah, there needed to be a change. So, I don't know what else is going to happen. But I wouldn't feel too good if I was Quinn.
Yeah, I think Quinn's next to go. I was the one that was saying for a while that should have been the fall guy. Jeff Gordon, I thought, had potential to be the fall guy, but I thought it was more likely to be Quinn than Gordon. But I was wrong, or I'm wrong at the moment. Quinn could very well be out of a job by next week. I love that Chris Drury's the guy to replace him because I was big on Drury too. I think he knows the organization well. He's been around for a long time. if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't he a captain or an alternate captain almost a decade ago?
Oh yeah. I mean, they signed him to that contract. They signed him and Scotty Gomez to like basically twin contracts in that one off season back in 2008, and he was the captain. I mean, maybe it didn't work out the way people thought it would work out, but yeah, Drury was an intelligent player. He wasn't the most skilled player, but the reason he was successful is because he had a high IQ. He was a Hopi Baker Award winner. He thought the game really well, and just always was a step ahead. He wasn't the best skater. He wasn't the best in terms of finishing, but he just knew how to play the game, and yeah, he could play the game good overall. Power play, penalty kill, block shots. Aside from scoring the clutch goals like he did when he helped the Avalanche win their Stanley Cup, and think about the fact that he was very pivotal with the Sabres as well. I mean, the Sabres probably should have won a Stanley Cup in that one year, but they had a lot of injuries in the 2006 postseason. 2007, Ottawa kind of got the revenge, but Drury's been around in the organization for a long time now, and he's just a very smart guy, and I think he's really good at evaluating talent. And I'm not saying that Gordon isn't, because Gordon made some really great moves. He did. I mean,
Yeah,
absolutely. You gotta give him credit. But I felt like I feel like this is a move that this is the move maybe to get this organization to the next step. Maybe how many years are you going to keep rebuilding without the postseason being part of it? I mean, they didn't pay Panarin all that money. What's he make? 11.63, I think.
Something like that.
They didn't pay him to jump on the back of Tom Wilson, so Tom Wilson could almost kill him. They don't pay him. They paid Jacob Trouba probably more than he's worth. But look what happened when Jacob Trouba went down, Madison.
Yeah,
that's when they fell apart.
Yeah, and you killed the Trouba contract, and you might be wrong about that, because when he got hurt, they fell apart.
But the one thing I didn't kill is the fact that I felt like Trouba, he does the nuts and bolts stuff, and I felt like he had been better this year. And you take out some of that, you take out that physicality, that guy who's going to mix it up, deliver hits, block the shots, play really hard-nosed defense. And he was playing really well at the time.
He was playing great.
When they got back in it, he was playing the best hockey he had played with the Rangers. And he was being the leader. And, him and Lindgren, those are two guys that provide that. Adam Fox blocks a lot of shots.
I love Adam Fox, man.
I mean, he's tremendous. He should win the Norris, but he probably won't. But you have to have those guys, and it's so cool. I thought it was just like, what an irony that as soon as Trooper went out of the lineup, Keandre Miller's game just dropped off, because he needs a guy like Trouba, because he's still not great in terms of taking the right angles. And when you don't have that, and everybody cries about Chris Kreider because he's streaky, but, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was leading the team in power play goals with 12. He had 21 goals. Yes, he is streaky, but he does the stuff in front of the net. Who else on the team does it? Colin Blackwell? I mean, they don't have anybody that does that stuff. And you take those three guys out, look what happened. They fell apart.
Yep. Exactly. They fell apart. And you're right about Miller. When Trouba went out, Miller, his game dropped. He hit a rookie wall. And
yes.
Fox, I'm with you. He should be considered for the Norris. I mean, I don't think he'll win. I think it'll be Victor Hedman, because Victor Hedman's Victor Hedman. But I did take a flyer on Fox at plus 340 on FanDuel about a month ago. It's probably, I probably got a good number on that. I want to look at that, and I'll let you know later and tell you what it is. But I did take a chance there with Adam Fox made the homer pick of Adam Fox plus 340 on FanDuel like about a month ago. That was kind of fun.
The fact that you did that at that time, that was pretty good intuition, on your part. I mean, the guy is just a terrific skater. He reads the play real well. I mean, of course, we would like to see him have a better finish along with the team, and it's not happening right now. But I think part of the reason why is because now he's got to, and this was my concern with this season, is that they're relying on him too much, and he has to play all these minutes, and when it's ironic. Even Fox, like, you look at the Islander series, the 8 games, right?
Yep.
Zibanejad only had an empty net goal against them with like 2 or 3 assists. Panarin did nothing in the last 3 games against the Islanders after putting up 2 and 4. No shots on goal, and that was just mystifying. Fox, kid from Jericho, New York, pretty close to where the old building, Nassau Coliseum. They played probably the final game there. 1 assist in the 8 games.
Yep.
Adam Fox. So I guess what it tells you is that the Islanders under Trotz, I don't think that they're very impressive, because I think they're going to have problems with teams in the playoffs because they have grit. Those other teams have the grit and the skill, and the Rangers don't. So yes, they could find a way to shut you down, but the Rangers rely too much on the East-West game, and you have to have some grit, some grind, some sandpaper as well. And I feel like I was pretty embarrassed with and ashamed and appalled at how they lost the 3 and 4 nothing results or whatever. That to me just typified what I was seeing with this team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but all they had it in front of them. If they could have won 2 of those 3 games, who knows? Who knows what could have happened?
They're probably maybe 2 back of Boston and playing for potential a bid stealer or a last spot stealer potentially if it wasn't for the Islanders and their ways of slowing us down. Or maybe
the Islanders are feeling the heat. They lost to the Sabres. They lost to the Sabres recently.
They did lose to the Sabres. I mean, a lot of people have lost to the Sabres recently. If I'm not mistaken, the Islanders just lost to them twice.
Because the Sabres, when they brought in their interim coach, Don Granato. Whenever I think Granato, I think Tony Granato, because that's when I first started following hockey. Tony Granato scored 37 goals, I think, in his rookie season for the Rangers. He was terrific. He got traded. He was part of the trade to the Kings for Bertie Nichols. That was Sandstrom and Granato, I think. But, his brother, Don, he's done a pretty good job there. The reason why, because, when the Sabres were under the other guy, he didn't play some of their young players. Casey Middlestat was hardly playing. Even if he put up a good game, he would be used on the third line, and then he would be scratched. And Tage Thompson, didn't even look like an NHLer. And Reinhart was playing right wing instead of center. What happens is this guy is just letting them play, and I think that that's what you have to do sometimes. And Rasmus Dahlin struggled mightily. You have to let these guys play. Right. And I think obviously the Sabres are at a different point in their rebuild. Whereas, the letter went out for the Rangers in February of 2018. So, we're at the end of 3 full seasons. This is really the 4th year since because that's when they made the trades with McDonough and Miller. Yep. That was maybe not Gordon's best deal. Although I think Brett Howden brings some grind to the team. I don't know if he's going to stay with the team, but he does bring some grind. He blocks the shot, and breaks his leg. And I'll tell you what, Libor Hayek,
he's improved.
He's actually become a good, solid NHL defenseman. I don't know what the plans are with him, but I guess Niels Lundqvist kid that they have to sign because he was so great in Sweden. He's going to help. That could help, out the trade if he is that other offensive defenseman like an Adam Fox and like a Zach Jones will be. So,
yeah, I forgot about Zach Jones. That's another one that that's shown some promise. But yeah, Hayek, I think, is one of the more improved players on the team from last year to this year. We were killing that guy last year, calling him, what were we calling him, Trashick? What were we calling him last year?
I called him Krapic.
Krapic, that's it.
And you know what the funny part is? I have a blog, NewYorkPuck.com, as you know. And sometimes when I go to punch up his name, that autocorrect comes up with that name. Like,
oh my
no,
God.
Like, you know what? I was wrong, and you know what? Maybe he really did. I think he did have some injuries, and that did kind of set him back. I know he doesn't have flash. He's not flashy. He's a good skater. He's not an offensive guy. He has 2 goals and 2 assists, but he's not bad. He's not a bad player. Are there plans for him, or is he going to wind up maybe on another team? Because he's definitely like a bottom pair guy. But I've noticed that he's gotten better. He had some struggles not too long ago. I think Quinn may have made a mistake having Hayek play with Fox. I don't think you split up Lindgren and Fox. I don't think you split up your top pair when you're playing those kind of big games. And I just didn't agree with that, and I don't think Hayek was ready for that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And speaking of David Quinn, you just mentioned him. We both think that he'll be out of the job in probably a week from now. Who would be your choices to possibly replace David Quinn if that were to happen? To me, who's the NHL's version of Tom Thibodeau? That's what I've been saying for the Rangers now, right?
You know what? I think I do. But when I put that on the blog too, I talked about how Dolan brought in Thibodeau. Finally, they brought in Tibbs, and look what happened.
Yeah, we need a Thibodeau with the Rangers.
Maybe he started thinking the Knicks have Julius Randle. I know we're going to talk about him and how terrific he is, but they have a lot of young players too, and role players. They have, what the Knicks have that the Rangers don't. They have these role players, and they know how to play their roles. Like the Reggie Bullocks and the Todd Gibsons, and Nerlens Noels, and hey, they traded for Derrick Rose. And
Derrick Rose has been tremendous. He's more than a role player on this team.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like. So you asked me, who do I think is the Tibbs of the NHL? I think that it's probably Rod Brind'Amour. I'm sure they would love to get Rod Brind'Amour because his contract is up with the Hurricanes, and the Hurricanes look like they're going to be one of the teams that could compete for the Stanley Cup, but they play in a very tough division. And I went out and picked the Hurricanes to get to the Cup, but will it happen? Because they have to get through their division, which includes the defending champs, the Lightning, who seem to be getting their act together, and the Florida Panthers, who are they're no joke. They're no joke anymore. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to watch. Do I think Rod Brind'Amour will become available?
Barry Trotz became available.
I understand, but I have to think the Hurricanes are going to get Brind'Amour a new contract.
I think so, too.
They have to be out of their minds, like the Washington Caps were, when they let Trotz go.
They're stupid for that, the Capitals.
So if you ask me who I think the choices are, I think Gerard Gallant could be a candidate. I mean, I think he did a good job in Florida originally, and then, of course, they kind of kicked him to the curb, literally, where he had to get a taxi to go back to his hotel. I thought that was like, well, that's real class. That's some class that was shown. And then the whole thing with Vegas, and then he decided to fire him. They did, that's funny. They replaced him with DeBoer, and they had this big round with the Sharks. And DeBoer is a damn good coach. He really is. And keep an eye on DeBoer in Vegas. They look like they're going to be pretty tough. But but Gallant, he definitely deserves another opportunity. John Tortorella, we know, is not going to return from Columbus. Do I want a Tortorella part 2? I just don't think he's the right fit.
I agree with you.
As much as I love him, and I like the fact that he's so honest with all his players, but we've been there, we've done that, and Tortorella is like 62, 63, and is he really the right backer for it? I'm not so sure. I think he'd be better fit for the Sabres.
Yeah, he should go. That's where I think he's going to end up. I'm calling it right now. Brian Sanborn's Buffalo Sabres next head coach will be John Tortorella.
That's kind of where he got his start as, I think an assistant coach back in 1998 or 99. But, one of the guys that's not being discussed is Rick Tocchet. Rick Tocchet has had a limited resources. I think he's done a pretty respectable job with the Arizona Coyotes. I know that they were eliminated from the playoffs recently, but imagine having a guy like that, a no-nonsense guy like a Tocchet here, with some really, really good pieces. When you look at Lafreniere and you look at his development, you look at some of the things he's doing, some of the goals that he scored. How about the pass that he made, in the loss the other night, where he waits and he goes around the defenseman and makes that backhand feed to Capo? I mean, Rick Tocchet would have a lot more available here, and Rick Tocchet knows a thing or two about winning Stanley Cups. He played for the Pens. He was in the league. He was a successful power forward for a long time. He was the most talented guy. You know what he was? He was tough. He could be a good candidate. Maybe there are some other guys out there, and this is all speculation, but when I read Drury's little comment, they asked him, it might have been Molly Walker, or it might have been Vince Mercogliano, about Quinn, because he has to make a decision on him. His quote wasn't an endorsement. It was non-committal. So there is that, and maybe David Quinn is a goner, and Drury was a Quinn guy. So, and Dolan has said, this is Chris Drury's decision. It is totally his call. So
As it should be.
Soon enough.
It should be Drury's call. And somebody that you didn't mention, Claude Julien. What do you make about Claude Julien? That is a name that a lot of our Twitter friends have been mentioning. Our friend Robert Haggerty. That's a name I've not dropped on this podcast. I'm sure he's listened before. We're friends with him on Facebook as well. He mentioned Julien, and he called Julien the quote-unquote Tibbs. And I think that Julien was great in Boston, and I think got a raw deal in Montreal because the Canadiens are a dysfunctional franchise. What do you make about Claude Julien?
Here's how I feel about Claude Julien. I think Julien is a good coach. I do think he's a good coach, but it seems to be that things sometimes fall apart for him. I don't know if it's the system that he plays. And yes, he does play more of a defensive system, but there was something wrong in Montreal. Maybe they have to start looking at their general manager.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I think it's more of their GM than the coach. I thought that Julien got a raw deal in Montreal, and their GM has made some not so great deals. Tampa robbed them with Sergachev.
Right, he was a former player too. He was a defenseman. But I just can't think of the name. But I don't know. I just don't see Julien as a fit here. He's a French Canadian guy. I feel like, what he did with Boston was tremendous, and he is a good coach. I feel like he's similar to, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but he's similar to Alain Vigneault, except that he did win a Stanley Cup. And
I think he's better than AV.
he is better. You know what? He is better than AV because he won. And you know what the funny part about the whole thing is? I remember when the Devils let him go. They let him go, and Lou decided to take over like he did that one every year, and it backfired. And then he winds up going to Boston. They wound up winning a Stanley Cup, and I kind of feel like they could have won more than one cup with those guys.
There's some bad luck with Boston with Julie. I mean, the one game they Capitals beat him in Game 7 in overtime the year after they won.
Yeah.
And by the way, I remember this was 9 years ago when remember the Rangers won against Washington in 7.
Oh my God, do I remember that? Yeah.
That same year, Washington beat Boston in 7 at TD Garden, Game 7. Backstrom scores the game winner. I mean, if that was Boston that won that game, the Rangers, I think, would have been in trouble the next round against Boston. Because that Boston team was really, really talented, and I thought they had a shot to repeat. Maybe that team would have been in the finals instead of the Devils.
I agree with you. That Ranger team couldn't match up with Boston.
Yeah, the Rangers, I think, got kind of lucky there with Washington winning. I remember being really excited that Washington won that series. And then Boston could have won the Cup in 2013, but then Tuukka Rask fell apart in the final minutes in Game 6. And then they lost another game in, triple overtime, so they could have won that Cup, too.
Against the Blackhawks.
Against the Blackhawks, yeah.
That was a strange series of events because, if memory serves, the first goal was really just a bad defensive screw up at the by the net where they left. I can't think it was a check play. They left the guy wide open, and that's how the game got tied up. The second one was just a good forecheck. And Blackhawks, had the momentum. It was a really good forecheck. And it was a point shot, and who redirected it? God, it was one of their gritty guys. It was a great redirection. Boland. That's right. It was Dave Boland. It was a deflection. Yeah, and it was just. I don't think nobody saw it coming. It was shocking. The way that happened, it was just totally shocking. I mean, Boston had this defensive breakdown on the first one. The second one was just a really good deflection by Dave Boland. I know, and we've talked to George Brew, and he likes to he's so tough on Rask, but I can't really blame Rask for what happened on those two goals. It's strange. I mean, it's like...
That's true.
Well, has Tuukka won a cup as the starting goalie there? No, he has not. But what happened when Tuukka left last year because he had a family emergency and Brew and all these people were slamming him and Halak took over. And Halak had been really good for Boston.
Halak was good.
How did Boston do against the Lightning with Halak in that?
The Lightning swept them, right?
I think that they beat them in 5.
They may have beat them in 5. I don't remember.
Boston won the first game, and then they lost the next 4.
And I know know Boston. So they lost to the Lightning, and in the round before that, didn't they sweep? They swept the Hurricanes, right? Or they beat the Hurricanes?
For whatever reason, the Hurricanes just didn't match up against the Boston Bruins.
That's just not a match for them.
Because the same thing happened to them the prior year.
Yeah.
When I thought they could be a tough out, and then the Bruins just... It's just that the Bruins... I think the Bruins had a little more experience, and their skill players were just a little bit better. Whereas if this matchup if they were still playing in the same division or they were playing the same conference now and they matched up, I think the Hurricanes would beat Boston because their young players are older now, and they're more established, and I think they would beat them now. That's just my. And who knows? They might wind up facing each other. I have no idea.
Maybe in the Final Four, maybe in the conference finals they'll meet up. You never know because they're in opposite divisions this year.
I kind of like the Pens. I don't like.
Really, I think I'm with you there. I think I'm going to join you on that one. I think I like Pittsburgh too.
That, but I kind of like the way they play, and I think I just like the way they play. I was totally wrong there. I didn't think the Pens were all that good.
I agreed with you. I didn't really love the Penguins before the season either. I thought that they were potentially like a trade away from becoming better, but they didn't really make that quote-unquote sexy move. Their big move was Jeff Carter, who I think will help them in the postseason.
You know what they have? They have the grit. They have these Teddy Blugers. And Teddy Bluger did pretty good against the Rangers in a couple of games. They have
Aston Reese.
They have Brandon Tanev, who hits everybody, and he'll probably be ready for the postseason. And that's kind of like what the Rangers can use.
That kid Aston Reese is solid too.
They have Brian Rust.
Brian
Rust scores a lot of goals. You know why he scores goals? Aside from the fact that he does play with Crosby. He shoots the puck. Like I think he's like in the top 5 in shots on goal. He takes so many shots. There was one game against the Rangers where I think Rust wound up with 11 shots on goal in a game and attempted like 17. Can you imagine any Ranger coming close to that? I feel like that's an area. But they have these guys. They have these Jared McCanns. I can't stand Jared McCann because he killed the Rangers in the game earlier this year, but early in the year. But like they have those guys, and then you have Sid. And you have Jake Gensel. And, God, Sid Crosby is amazing. He's amazing.
You've always been a big Crosby stan, even like when he was... And he's still...
I used to hate him.
And he's still in his prime. He's like later in his prime, though. Like, he's literally like the LeBron of hockey in a way, because like he's just still so dominant when he's healthy and playing.
He's just... You know what it is about him? He's really strong in terms of his, lower body strength. He's always been a really good skater. He knows when to shoot the puck and when to pass the puck. Like he can take goalies by surprise. He's got great hand-eye coordination around the net. Where if the puck's in midair, he could just bat it out, or he could do one of those Crosby-esque or Datsuk-esque, because Datsuk was very good at it too, deflections. He's a great two-way player too. Nobody talks about that. And nobody talks about that because he doesn't really kill penalties that much. But he's intelligent. So he gets better and better. And yes, I do think he should be nominated for the Hart Trophy. It's really the Connor McDavid award because Connor McDavid's going to win it. But I do think Crosby should be in the final 3.
I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance about that. And then you mentioned Pittsburgh. 2 things on the Penguins. 1, I bet on them 3-1 about a month ago to win the division when they were in 3rd. They were like at the time maybe 3 or 4 points back of first place, and I bet them at 3-1 to win the division. And at the moment, FanDuel has the Pittsburgh Penguins, I believe, as the favorites to win the East Division. Oh no, they're plus 175. Washington's minus 175, and I know why. It's because Washington has more games in hand.
Well, what do we got here? I've got like 2 or 3 games left. I mean, it's like
Pittsburgh has, I believe, 1 more game left, if I'm not mistaken, against Buffalo.
You know what? That's exactly what it is. So one team's playing 2 games, and the other team's playing 1 game. Is that what it is? So, I mean...
Oh, no, Pittsburgh does have 2. Never mind. Okay. They have 2 left, like the Rangers. Washington has 4 left, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look here. Washington has 3 left.
I felt that the Caps would probably hang on and they would win the division. But I also knew that the Bruins were going to close the gap because ever since they made the trade for Taylor Hall, they've been coming on, and they just don't. It doesn't look like they have enough time to make up the gap because they got 4 left, and the Rangers are going to play them 2 games, and then the Bruins are going to have a couple extra games.
One against the Capitals.
3. The Penguins have 2, and like you said, the Caps have 3. Don't forget that the first tiebreak is regulation wins. The Caps right now are at 28, and the Penguins are at 27, and those other teams are 24, 23. So it's going to be either the Caps or Pens.
Yeah, and then the other thing about the Pittsburgh Penguins I want to mention, Chris Drury, the funny thing about Chris Drury, remember he was in play for that job? I was like, nope, they better not let him leave. He better not go to Pittsburgh. Good thing they kept him around. Actually, no, it's 3. That's one thing. And then the other thing is that one Rangers candidate to potentially be the next head coach is their AHL coach, Knobloch, who, you never know, could that be like the Mike Sullivan of the Rangers? Because Mike Sullivan was the coach at Wilkes-Barre Scranton with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, and then he gets promoted, they win 2 cups.
The thing about Sullivan, Sully was he was an assistant. He was a head coach early in his career. I think he was he was NHL coach for either, it might have been the Bruins or it might have been I think it was the Bruins or the Coyotes. And then what happens is, when you get a taste, sometimes you wind up, having to go back down, whether it's by being an assistant coach on a coaching staff, which he was with Tortorella for a long time, and then eventually coach in the AHL to build yourself back up. Mike Sullivan also was like a gritty kind of player. I remember him as a hockey player. He was like a energy, like, fourth line kind of player, a center. So, and sometimes guys like that turn out to be pretty good coaches. The Chris Knobloch hire was an interesting hire. They needed to bring somebody different in, and the way I watched Knobloch, I watched like his pressers. I thought that he came off very. He just seems like a really different personality than Quinn, and he's young. He's 42, so I don't know if he's ready yet to become the coach, but there's something about him. There's something about him. He's got like this presence. And you know what he coached? He coached Connor McDavid. That's right. He coached Gary.
That's right.
He coached Connor McDavid. I mean, so this guy's been coached for a while. He's been around for a while. That's right. Yeah, he was drafted by the New York Islanders. His play career lasted until 2006. He's a young guy. It just seemed to me. I remember, you know what struck me? They asked him. I think one of the first questions they asked him is, what did you tell the players? And that was when Zibanejad had his first big game against the Flyers. You know what he said?
What?
Just go out and play. Go out and play. Which to me was like, go out, play, and have fun. And a lot of the time when I watch the Rangers under Quinn, I don't know how much fun they're having. It just feels like it's more of a pressure cooker. And maybe that's because Quinn's been around here for 3 years, or maybe it's because there's just feel more pressure. I just noticed a difference. A little bit of a difference. I think he's a different personality. So, you could be right. Maybe Chris Knobloch could be a candidate. He was a Flyers assistant coach, by the way.
He was, looking at his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, he was with Erie, of course, and he won championships too. One in the WHL, one in the OHL. I mean, this is an interesting guy. And sometimes teams will hire younger coaches. I mean, we're always talking about experienced coaches. And I think, they do need, you know what they need? They do need a no-nonsense coach that is going to make veterans accountable as well. So when Mika Zibanejad's having a bad game and is doing nothing, you know what? benched or you're on the third or fourth line. I'm serious. I mean, I feel that's one thing. That's one area. Like, and Quinn did it a couple of times with Zibanejad because he was really struggling. He did do it. I'll give him credit there. But he leans way too much on that first power play unit, which of course featured Kreider. And at this point of the season, you're out of the playoffs. What would be the problem with having, Lafreniere? Having Lafreniere, Capo Caco, Philip Hedl, Fox, and I don't know, maybe Kravtsov. Why does Blackwell play over Kravtsov on the power play? And I know Blackwell's been a good, he does give you that front presence, but shouldn't Kravtsov get power play time?
I agree with you.
He's willing to put Zach Jones out there because he knows Zach Jones is going to be, he's good. He's good with the puck, and he's a much better skater than Keandre. You know what? This is what I'm going to say. I think Jones is going to come along quicker because he's more of an offensive guy. He's a better skater. He's more fluid. Keandre Miller is more of a project because he's more of a two-way defenseman, and two-way defensemen take a little longer, and he still doesn't know his own strength. So that's going to be something interesting to watch, and they have to get more out of him than whatever happens with the next season. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think it's just going to be fascinating to watch. So these next 5-6 days or whatever they decide to do, we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. I might have to have you on again maybe in a couple weeks once they maybe they hire a potential new coach and then the playoffs will be underway. So I definitely got to have you on again to do that. But before we go, quickly, let's talk about the other pennant at Madison Square Garden. I should say tenant, and that is the New York Knickerbockers, who are currently the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, maybe 5th because of the loss last night. 37-29 on the year, if I'm not mistaken. I know the winning streak that winning streak broke last week, and then they got crushed last night by Denver, but bad game, bound to happen. They haven't had a bad game like that in a long, long time, plus Denver's a good team. But if you're the Knicks, who do you want to face in the first round?
Anybody but the Miami Heat.
Anybody but the Miami Heat. I agree with you there. Atlanta's my preference, by the way.
Well, yeah. I mean, because they don't really play great defense. I mean, yeah, they can score a lot of points, and boy, they can. I mean, I don't know what Trae Young's status is, but I'm sure he'll be ready to go. Yeah, I mean, the Celtics, if they play the Celtics, I do think they can handle them. But I think whoever they play, it's going to be a long first round. Yeah, it's going to go 6-7 games. But the Heat, with their inside-out combo of Butler and Bam, plus their experience and the coach, Spoelstra, who I think is a terrific coach. He's one of the best coaches in the NBA. I think that would be a very difficult matchup.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I would like the Knicks, obviously, to get the 4 seed. I think it's important to get that home court. I mean, even though you don't have as many fans at the games, they feed off that energy, and they are so much fun to watch. I mean, they play so hard. I mean, I think they were just due for a bad game. The Nuggets have been playing incredibly well. Jokic scored 24 points in the first quarter. It was just one of those games.
Yeah,
it happens sometimes.
They're due. Long overdue.
It happens.
Yeah, that's why I didn't complain about the Knicks losing last night, because it was well overdue. Plus, Denver's a good team.
I would be surprised if they come back and beat the Clippers, because the Clippers are strange.
I think they're going to win one of these 2 games against Phoenix or the Clippers. I think they will. Yeah. I mean, you never know. Kawhi could sit the game. The Suns just lost to the Hawks the other night. I got mad at myself for that because the Suns were my best bet. And I don't know why. I was a weird line. They were 1-point favorite at Atlanta, and I'm like, why are they only 1? And I laid it with the Suns. I regret that because the Hawks killed them.
I would have taken the Suns also. I'm not a gambler, but
and that's a game.
The Suns are legit.
Suns are great. I think they can win the Western Conference. I think they can make the finals.
If everything breaks right for them, I think they can do it.
I love them.
Everything has to break right for them.
I love Chris Paul.
Chris Paul, well, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a great player, and he's still a true point guard. I was so impressed with that game. The Knicks, they never gave up in that game. They're down 8 points. They cut it to 3. They're down again. They get right back in it, and then Paul makes this ridiculous off-balance shot against Randall, where the defense couldn't have been any better. I don't know how he did it. I mean, what's he scored? He scored the last 7 points of the game, and Mikal Bridges. I kept talking about him, and I don't know why the 76ers traded away that draft pick. I knew he was good in Villanova, and he hurt the Knicks, and they're good because they can spread you out. They can spread you out, and they have a really good team, and I think their coach has done a really good job there.
Yeah, I think that their coach, Monty Williams, has done fabulous there. But Tom Thibodeau, to me, is a lock for the coach of the year because of what he's done.
He better win it. He better win it.
He better win it. I'd be devastated. Like, it'd be worse than Miguel Andujar losing Rookie of the Year. Like, it would be the most dumb non-award giving if Tom Thibodeau doesn't win Coach of the Year of any of my favorite teams ever. I mean, I know the Judge MVP in 2017 hurts now more because of the Astros cheating, but this one's going to hurt really, really bad because I love the job that Tom Thibodeau has done this year.
I agree with you. I could think of MVP awards where I didn't agree with choices. I remember when they chose Kirk Gibson over Darryl Strawberry. Maybe it was because Kirk Gibson's team wasn't really as talented as the Mets, and the Mets had other guys in the MVP voting, like Kevin McGraddles and a couple other guys. But I thought Strawberry should have won it. And then, of course, what happens? The Dodgers wound up winning the World Series that year. That was improbable. Go look at their roster. Like, there's no way they should have won the championship. But sometimes those things happen.
Yeah, sometimes robberies happen in sports. But yeah, Derek, it was such a pleasure to have you on today. I got to have you back on in a couple weeks. Maybe the Rangers will have a new coach. We'll be in playoff mode for NBA and hockey, and we have to talk Yankees next time as well.
I'm happy to see Giancarlo Stanton looking healthy and swinging the bat the way he can. I like the fact that he's using the whole field. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a player that can hit the ball as hard as he gets it. It's really something to watch. I know they lost today, and Altuve got a little revenge, but they took 2 out of 3, and they look like they're back on track. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, 2 out of 3 is not bad. I mean, it sucks to lose the game that Cole's pitching, but you'd rather win 2 out of 3 and lose the Cole game than lose 2 out of 3 and win the Cole game because obviously winning 2 out of 3 is better than losing 2 out of 3. That's what it comes down to for me.
I wish they would have swept them.
Me too.
I mean, you can't have everything sometimes in life, and so sometimes you got to make a little lemonade out of those lemons. So, it's always fun, being part of your podcast. It's excellent, and I always have a good time. Yeah, it was a good time today, and we'll talk next time I have you on. Thank you very much, Baz, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Alrighty, you too.